Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on the intense, high-stakes investigations that kick off the exact second a commercial truck gets into an accident. Let's dive right in, because the reality of what happens on the side of the highway is way more complex and lasts a whole lot longer than most people realize. Here's our roadmap for today. We'll start with the post-crash reality, then look at Target 1, the driver, Target 2, truck and cargo, and Target 3, the company. After that, we'll cover the nuclear verdict threat and wrap up with how to actually protect the business. We gotta start by totally shattering the most common and frankly the most dangerous misconception out there in the trucking industry. After a crash, insurance just pays. Sounds great, right? You pay your premiums, an accident happens, they write a check. But look, if you're operating a commercial vehicle, believing this is a massive, massive risk. Because here is the reality. Trucking claims are not simple payouts. The second a crash happens, it triggers an immediate, highly aggressive hunt by insurers. They're digging for liability, negligence, policy violations, or even flat-out fraud. Their entire goal? To scrutinize every single operational detail so they can reduce or completely deny that payout. And this number right here perfectly illustrates exactly why they dig so deep. Modern trucking lawsuits and what we call nuclear verdicts routinely expose companies to north of $10 million in damages. We aren't talking about standard fender benders here. We're talking about the kind of financial exposure that can literally bankrupt a business overnight. Because the stakes are just so astronomically high, insurers do not wait around. They deploy investigators instantly. They know that the golden window for gathering evidence is incredibly brief. Over just a couple of days, things change. Memories get fuzzy, wrecked trucks get towed away and repaired, and key witnesses, they just vanish. When it comes to investigations, speed is absolutely everything. Now, what's really fascinating here is the initial police report. Think of it as the foundational blank slate before the hardcore digital digging even begins. Investigators comb through this document looking for those early, heat-of-the-moment statements from the driver. Just saying something simple like, "Man, I'm sorry," or "I didn't even see them," to an officer at the scene, that gets immediately flagged, and it will be used against the driver and the company down the line. All right, moving on to our first major focus. Section 1, Target 1, the driver, scrutinizing the human element. So you might be wondering, what actually happens when they start looking at the driver? You'd be forgiven for thinking it just stops at a standard post-accident drug and alcohol test. But nope, insurers are hunting for a much deeper narrative about the driver's exact state of mind and body in the hours and days leading up to that crash. The very first thing they do? They pull the electronic logging device, the ELD, records. Why? Because finding just 1 hour of service violation instantly transforms a run-of-the-mill accident into a highly lucrative fatigue and negligence lawsuit. If a driver went even slightly over their legal driving hours, plaintiff attorneys are going to pounce on that. Juries are notorious for harshly punishing trucking companies if they think drivers are being overworked or put on unsafe schedules. And it doesn't stop there. Beyond pulling cell phone records to check for distracted driving, investigators are aggressively scrubbing social media profiles. Yeah, you heard that right. They are absolutely watching your TikTok, your Facebook, your YouTube. They are hunting for any signs of risky behavior or fraud. Let me give you a perfect example. Say a driver claims they suffered a severe, debilitating back injury from a crash. Well, that claim is going to completely collapse if investigators stumble across a recent video of them hitting the gym hard on Instagram. I know it sounds wild, but this happens all the time. It absolutely destroys the credibility of a claim. Once the driver's history is thoroughly dissected, the focus shifts to the physical assets. So let's look at Section 2. Target 2, truck and cargo, examining the machine and the freight. First up, they're going to demand all the dashcam footage to prove or disprove fault. That footage alone can either save a company millions by proving innocence or totally expose them. Then they're going to tear through the maintenance logs, because a simple tire blowout, legally, that is viewed as massive negligence if the DOT files show that tire should have been replaced 3 months ago. And then there's the cargo itself, which creates an entirely separate layer of liability. Improper securement that causes a rollover, or, say, a refrigerated reefer load that spoils because of spotty maintenance. Those can easily escalate into six-figure claims on their own. Investigators are going to scrutinize the straps, the load balance, and those temperature logs to figure out exactly where the ball was dropped. But the investigation doesn't just stop at the truck. It travels all the way back to the administrative offices, bringing us to Section 3, Target 3,
the company, auditing the operations.
So here's a big question. Can dispatchers actually be blamed for a crash? Well, it surprises a lot of people to learn that a dispatcher, sitting at a desk hundreds of miles away, can be the exact reason a company loses a multi-million-dollar lawsuit. The investigation extends heavily into the business's entire communication network. Think about it. If investigators pull text messages showing a dispatcher pressuring a tired driver to keep driving just to meet some unrealistic delivery deadline, or if they look into the qualification files and uncover that the company knowingly hired a driver with a suspended CDL, man, the company is suddenly staring down the barrel of catastrophic negligent supervision and hiring claims. They even look for undeclared operations like operating outside your insured radius, which can literally void your entire coverage in an instant. Which brings us to the ultimate endgame of these deep dive investigations. Section 4. The nuclear verdict threat. Why the stakes are so high. Plaintiff attorneys absolutely target trucking companies. Why? Because they're professionally insured commercial businesses with really high limits, and they're considered strictly financially responsible. Any uncovered negligence or safety compliance failure, whether we're talking about falsified logs or just really bad hiring practices, is weaponized to make a jury angry. And an angry jury dramatically increases the settlement pressure on the company. So, knowing all of this, how does a trucking business actually defend itself? Let's look at Section 5. Protecting the business, the ultimate shield. Honestly, your absolute best defense is meticulous documentation. Because in the eyes of the law, an innocent mistake, like, say, just missing some paperwork, is instantly spun as an admission of guilt. If you're missing records, attorneys are going to assume the worst. Weak maintenance programs, that becomes prime lawsuit evidence. And no dash cams, you are leaving yourself completely vulnerable to false claims. Rock-solid records are literally what save millions during these legal battles.
Understanding this hidden investigation process is what allows you to get prepared today, well before disaster ever strikes. So, I want to leave you with this final thought. When the unexpected happens, if a crash happens tomorrow, will your company's records be your greatest shield or your ultimate downfall? Thanks for hanging out with me for this explainer. Get your documentation tight, and we'll see you next time.